Hey friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I'm Frederick and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the architectural patterns in .NET, and that is clean architecture. Have you heard of it before? Do you actually know what is it? Then stay tuned, because this video is going to help you a lot to let you get the basics of it and how to implement it in your application.
When we are done, then we're also going to look at how to implement MediatR and CQRS on the clean architecture.
Before I dive into this, I do offer coaching or training sessions for people who are interested in .NET technologies, talking about Blazor, Mari and Mari Blazor hybrid, and also web API services. If you want to write to me, check this video description, and I have an email there. You can write to me through it. The source code of this project also be available, so check this video description and you can have access to this. So the question is, what actually is clean architecture? Clean architecture is a software architectural pattern introduced by Robert C. Martin, also known as Uncle Bob. I believe you've heard of this name before, Uncle Bob. Now, what does this architecture aims to? It aims to create maintainable, scalable, and also testable software by emphasizing separation of concern and dependency inversions. Although this is not specific to .NET, but we can implement this in .NET as well. So in this video, we're going to look at how do you implement this clean architecture in .NET. There are many presentations on this clean architecture or this Uncle Bob architecture in .NET. Now I'm going to give you one. Now this clean architecture has basically four layers. So what are the layers? We have the domain layer, we have the application layer, the infrastructure layer, and we have the presentation layer. So the domain layer, it is an innermost layer that houses the core business logic, talking about your models and your entities. The application layer acts as an intermediary between the domain layer and the outer layer, and it defines the use cases and also orchestrates the flow of data and the business logic. So the application layer needs the domain layer to work with. The domain layer, it is independent. Application layer depends on the domain layer. Also, the infrastructure layer, this contains the implementation details required to support the application. So with this, the infrastructure layer depends on the application layer. The application layer contains all the contract, the interfaces, and with this interface, the implementation can be found inside this infrastructure layer. There comes in the last one, that is the presentation layer. This layer serves as an entry point of the application. And this can be a web UI and API .NET Mari project. It could be web API projects. It could also be Blazor hybrid projects, and etc. Okay, so let's put all I've said into practice, and now let's see it practically. All right, so I'm going to create a project here, and first of all, I'm going to create a new blank solution for this. Then this is going to be demo. Let's make clean architecture. Okay, so now let's click on create to get this project created. Okay, so we are going to add these four layers. Okay, the first layer that we need to add, these are all classes. So right click on solution, then we click on add new project, and in that we need a class library. So this is going to be domain layer. So let's make this a domain layer. Let's also create another one, and this is going to be the application layer. Solution. Right click on the solution, click on add new project, and here the same class, and that is an application layer. Now we need to create the next one, and that's the infrastructure layer. So we have our infrastructure layer in here. And the last one here, it is a presentation layer. Now the presentation layer, it could be that we're going to have a web API. We're going to also have a Blazor WebAssembly or .NET Mari or any other presentation project, right? So in that, we can add a solution folder here. So we put all of these projects under one, and we can say this is presentation layer. Then let's add this project, and we're going to choose web API. So let's say this is web API. Let's add this. Then we can also add maybe WebAssembly to this. So right click on this presentation. Now let's also add. So you can add number of projects that you want as a presentation to this. So we're going to add WebAssembly. Now let's click on create. So you can see that our presentation layer, we have 2 projects which have been added. And now these projects are going to consume the layer that have been defined in here. But the next question is, maybe be asking yourself, why is it necessary that, or is it a must that all the time I should use these names? No. You can modify, you can customize this name, okay? But it must follow this pattern. If you want to use clean architecture in .NET, you must follow this pattern, but the names could be changed. But for the purpose of this project, for you to get understanding, I am just renaming this as you can see in the layers, okay? Proposed by the Uncle Bob. Yes, okay. Now, with this, what's the next thing to do? Let's assume we're going to create a database. We're going to have something like customer CRUD on customer, okay? So create, read, update, and delete on customer, whereby we're going to have database connection and the whole stuff. And aside from that, we're going to look at how to consume this inside the Blazor WebAssembly. Okay, so it's going to be a complete one for you. All right, now you can see we have some classes, default ones. Let's quickly clean them up because this we don't need them. Okay, so in our web API, we have this WebAssembly tool. We also have this. So now, first thing I'm going to do here is we want to run the web API first. So let's set this as startup project. Okay, so as you can see, and now let's start this up. But before that, we have to build the whole project. So let's build them so that in case we do have some dependencies as NuGet packages, we can just restore them before we build them or before you run it. Okay, so right click on solution. Now click on build solution, and let's see if you're going to build all these 4. That is 5 projects, but we have 4 now because a folder contains 2 projects. So we classify this as 1 project, isn't it? Yeah, that's a presentation layer. So 4 layers, but 5 projects. Yeah, so we see 5 builders successfully. Now let's see. So within this, we've set this to web API setup. Let's run this. That's right. So you can see that our web API is working. As you can see from here, it is still working. Now let's close this. Let's also set the WebAssembly as startup, and let's run that too, and check it up. So startup. Now let's run this too, and as you can see, it is also running perfectly. So we have the 2 projects run successfully as expected. Okay, now let's talk about the dependencies. So we know there are names given to clean architecture. People say we call it hexagonal architecture, onion architecture, and a whole lot. Okay, the reason it, the domain layer, it is a center because it is independent. It doesn't depend on any layer. The application layer depends on the domain layer for the models, because the domain layer contains the models, the entities. The application layer is going to create the contract That is our interfaces. Now, with the infrastructure, it's going to depend on the application layer. So it's in the hierarchy of dependency. The infrastructure is going to contain or depend on the application layer for the implementations, because you have the contracts or the interfaces inside the application layer, and you're going to have this implementation inside the infrastructure, and that is where we're going to provide, or we're going to have our database migration in it, the data access layer. That's we're going to have our database migration in it. And now this layer is going to contain the core operation of the interfaces specified in the application layer. Okay, now the presentation layer is going to consume the application layer, whereby the application layer is going to use the infrastructure. Okay, notice that. I don't want to confuse you anymore. Okay, so let's start to do this. So what we're going to do here is, first we go to the main layer, and now this is the independent. Okay, so this is the core of the project. Now here we're going to right click on the application layer dependencies, we are going to add this, the main layer, to this. So we need a modules to create our contract, our interfaces, isn't it? Now when you're done creating your interfaces, what's the next thing to do? We need to create a contract. I'm going to create a contract or interfaces inside this application, and in that you need implementation. So the implementation is going to happen inside the infrastructure. So right click on infrastructure, and I'll add project references. We're going to add this application layer. So the application layer depends on domain, and now the infrastructure depends on application. You see? And now when it comes to the presentation from the web API, you right click, we're going to use the application layer. So right click on dependencies, add references, then we're going to use this application layer, because this is going to contain the contract or the interfaces. And now we go to the WebAssembly tool, and we're also going to use this application layer. Yeah, so these are dependencies that you need to be set, and now we are good to go. Okay, now we are done with this. Let's talk about why do we have to use clean architecture. So that's the importance of clean architecture. Now with the clean architecture, it encourages a clear separation of concern within the code base. So as you can see from here, we have the separate projects. Now each project has what it needs to do. Example is the application and now the infrastructure. The application is going to contain the interfaces, and now the infrastructure is going to contain the implementation. So you can see that we do not have the interface and implementation together. We have it in a separate form, and it also encourages what? We can break it down, the application, into layers. Clean architecture to promote stability. You can also write unit tests for each layer independently, ensuring that business logics and functionality are thoroughly tested. And also, developers can also make changes without rewriting the entire system. So let's go to the infrastructure, and that is where we're going to have our database connection. Okay, that's where we're going to have our data access in there. So right click on this, and we need to install some packages in here. So let's add get packages. You're going to install the EF core and also tools and SQL server. So we need Microsoft.entity-framework core.tools. Let's install this. Aside from installing this, we need to install SQL server. So we have this over here, SQL Server, and now 8.0.1. Let's install this too. And maybe we can install the EF core itself. So these are the 3 packages that we need for now. So when you go to solution, you check the dependencies, you can see that we have another packages, we have them installed here. Now I'm going to click on this. Then as you can see from here, I'm going to, let's say, copy this package references. Let's copy this. Let's go to the presentation layer, and inside that, I'm going to work on the web API. So you need to include them here. So right click on this web API. Let's go to unload project. Save this. Project unloaded. Click on this again. Now where we have this, let's paste it here, because we're going to definitely need this here for registration. So that's the reason why we have to include these packages as well. Once you're done, right click on this web API and I'll go to reload project with dependencies. Since you have these packages installed already, it's going to reload them. After that, let's build this solution together. Alright, so while this has been built, let's go to solution. Then we go to our infrastructure, and in here, I hate saying infrastructure, I can say IL, isn't it? IL, and that is it. Okay, so in the IL, that's infrastructure, we're going to right click on this, we click on, let's add folder here, and we can name it this as data. As you know, if you've been following these videos, you know data, what's going to contain. So we need a class, and this is going to be the AppDB context class. So you have to put AppDB context class in here, and this is going to be public, and this is going to inherit from that is a DB context. So we can create constructor for this. Let's pass in the options which inherit from the base. Okay, now once we have this done, let's create our model. Now what do you think the models will be? You know, models are independent, right? That is the business logic. Let's say with this we want to perform CRUD operation on customer, and the customer, we need customer ID, customer name, customer and etc., right? So all these properties must be in a class, and this class what we call as model or entity, and this must be found in the domain layer. So we go to the solution, right click on the domain. Now here we're going to add a new folder to this, and it's going to be entities. So here we need only for customer, because that's what we are doing. So customer, employee, well, anyone, like make it an employee or customer. Okay, so employee be okay. So we create a class for employee, and now what are some properties that are going to need from employee? This is going to be public. Let me clear this up. So we need maybe ID automatically. For primary key purpose, we need name. Right, so aside from name, what do you need again? Maybe we can have access to address, something like that. Okay, so maybe we're gonna have a string, and that's an address. Okay, maybe let's maintain this. Okay, you can add more to this, but for practical purpose, we want to maintain these 3 properties. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to create a service response, and this response is going to be a DTO, data transfer object that would send data or maybe a response from the infrastructure. Okay, so when an operation is being made, now the outcome of this operation, we have to communicate to the user using this DTO. So we go to solution, and the question is, what do you think is the best place to put the DTO? You know, presentation layer is going to access the application layer. So application layer, it is the right place to put all your DTO so that it can be accessed by the presentation layer. So right click on this, and in here let's add a new folder. We're going to say this DTOs. Now with these DTOs, we can just have a class in there, and we say this is service response. Now with this service response, what are we having? We're going to have just a public class. This is not actually a class. We can make this as record. Then let's specify a flag in here to check the state of the operation that we are just tackling, and also let's have access to maybe an extra message that you want to provide. Okay, so we have this. We don't need any of this here, so we can clear them off. All right, now let's go to solution. So once you have our DTOs in the application layer, we need to create our contract. That's the interface, right? So the same project, we're going to add a new folder to this, and you can name it as contract, you can name it as anything at all that you want. Interfaces, you can do that. Okay, so naming is up to you. Contract. And now with this contract, we're going to add an interface in here. So this is going to be an interface. You make sure you go in for interface, and this is, let's say there's an I employee, which is an interface, employee interface. So this must be a public. Let's clear all this up. Okay, so aside from that, we're going to have access to, this is going to be a task, and we have a service response. Then in here we have maybe add. So this is an employee, right? So this add. Let's make it an async. And you know, this is going for this employee from the domain, since this layer, that is the application layer, depends on the domain layer. So we say this is an employee. We can do the same for update async. Update async, and you can have access for delete async. Now with delete async, maybe we're going to look for only ID. Let's make it an ID. Okay, so int ID will be okay for this. And in that we need, let's say, list of employee. So here we can have get async. So it's going to get all employees. Then maybe you can have access to get by ID. So it's not going to be list. So get by ID. Then what do you need to do? Pass in the ID. So these are the contracts, and it is a core duty of this application layer to handle these contracts or the interfaces, whatever that you call it. Yeah. Okay. So once you have this, the next question is, we need to create an implementation, and now we are detaching the implementation from the interface. So the implementation here, that is the infrastructure, has to happen inside the infrastructure project. Okay, and that's the layer. So let's go to the infrastructure in here, and we can create another class, a folder, and we can just write an implementation, etc., etc. So from naming conventions or for names, it's up to you. So let's add a new class, and this is going to be an employee. Okay, so this is an employee. Let's make that repo, so that doesn't look the same as the model. We have this as public, and now since implementation depends on the application, we can go straight ahead and now inherit from this employee. Now it has a method that we need to implement. So using this control period, we can implement our interfaces in here. You see? Good. Now the same infrastructure contains our data, That's an AppDB contest. So we can pass in or inject an AppDB contest here. We can use primary constructed, but for now, I don't want to confuse in here. Let's do the traditional way. So CTOR, let's have our AppDB contest class injected. Contest, then we say it's an AppDB contest control period. We can create and assign field, not properties. Take note. Alright, so once you have this, we need to go to that AppDB contest class, and in here we're going to create a DB set. So DB set, then it's an employee from the domain, and we can have a look at this. So the table name, maybe employees. Okay, now let's go to the repo, that's infrastructure, and now we can start using this. So from add async, what are we doing? We're just going to write, so appdb contest dot employees dot add. Okay, so we're going to add employee to this. Then, okay, so here, let's have a private method in here. So private, and there's async task. And let's say commit or save changes. Okay, now this marks to await appdb contest dot save changes async. We don't want to repeating ourselves. Remember, one principle here is what? Do not repeat yourself. Dry. So we want to put it here because we're going to be using it often. Then we can say await save changes. That is all. Now out of the delete, we're going to find this in here. So employee is equal to await appdb contest dot find, don't find first, dot employees dot find async. Then we need to provide in the ID. So if this is not, or if it is null, then we can return new service response. Then in here we can have something like false. Then we can say that user not found. But I'm not sure user won't found. User will be found by all means. Else, what are we doing? We're going to remove it. So we're going to say await appdb contest dot employees dot remove. So this remove, we need not to employee will come here, and this we don't have to bring an await in here. Then after that, we call this await save changes async to save it. Then what are we doing? We're going to return new service response, and now here this is going to be true, and we say deleted. Are you getting the idea? Now you have to do the same thing to this. So after adding, we need to return something like added. This depends on you how you want to do it. Let's go to get async. So with this get async, we can just use one line of code to get it. Let's get list. So await, we're gonna have appdb contest dot employees dot as no tracking. Do you have as no tracking in here? Okay, so let's see. Dots, then we can have, so as no tracking, then dot to list async. The reason why we're adding this here is you are just return the list of employee, and we don't want the EF code to track it because we're not making any changes to release the memory, so we don't want to track it. That's why we have to add this. Get by ID, we can also do same. So we say await. Okay, then with this we can have appdb contest the employees dot find async. Then we can pass in the ID, And here too, we can still use it as no tracking. It gets the ID and now it returns it. It doesn't want to, or we don't want it to track it anymore. So get the ID and I return it. But you can maintain this. And I update async. What are we doing in here? We can have access to app.db contest dot update. Let's specify this employee. Then await save changes async. Then return new service response. This is going to be true. Then you're going to have updated. Okay, so this is what we are doing. Then we have, so this is the implementation. Okay, and if you check this is using the data access layer. That is where we have access to our database connections, the app.db contest. Good, so this is where we have the implementation inside the infrastructure layer. Okay, so now with this is going to be used by only the application layer. Okay, now the API or the presentation layer is going to use this. The presentation layer is going to use the application layer, whereas the application layer is going to use the domain layer, and the infrastructure layer also going to have access to the application layer, because that's where it has this interface in. So when you call the interface, it's going to call the definition from this infrastructure. And now there you go. So once you're done with this, we need to perform database migration. But before that, you need to create a database connection string, isn't it? You know, from that, you can do that in the web API. Go to app settings. So you can see that all that we've been doing, we are not tackling the presentation layer, because the presentation layer, it is a consumer. So it just consumes the service which has been created. Okay. Now we go to app settings, and now in here, let's have our connection strings. And in that, you know, let's have a default connection. And we say this is server is equal to, we can have local, we can have our database. So this is demo clean db. So this is a database, don't worry. Okay, so from there we have our trusted connection, trusted underscore connection. Let's set this to true. And then trust server certificate, set this to true as well. Okay, so we have this set. Let's go to solution, program.cs file, and we need to register a database connection. Before I forget, let's register our service in here. So builder.services dot, so add scope. Now for this scope, we need to, we're going to add the I employee. You see, we're coming from the contract in the application layer, and in that we're going to use the infrastructure too as well, and that's going to be the employee repo, and it is coming from employee repo is coming from. So let's go in there and now add this dependencies, project reference, infrastructure. So you see, as you know, you see that we're going to use the two, since we're going to derive the implementation here, the interface here, and now with the implementation we have to include this. So all that you need to do here is consume the two in your project. Okay, and that is all for the registration. Okay, so once you have this employee repo control period, we can now use this, and that is all. Okay, now let's go in the register our connection. So you're gonna have builder.services.app.db contest. Then you call this app.db contest class that you created, and in that you have to pass an option. I call it O, which marks you O, not 0. O dot use SQL server. And now in that we need to get builder.configuration dot get connection string. What is the name of the connection string here? It is default connection. I believe you remember, right? So let's close this. Now we can just check so we do not make any error here. Let's copy this, go to the program, and let's paste it again. Let's ensure it is exactly what we want. Okay, so now we have the next thing we're going to do here is perform migration. Here, one thing I have to take note here is, we have the data access layer in the infrastructure, and now we're going to perform migration onto this API. Okay, so we have to set this as startup project from the web API. Click on package manager console, and now when you get to down here, default project set to this infrastructure layer. That's where we have a data access layer in. So let's do this, and we say add migration. We say this is first. Now this is going to build the project, and I'll start the migration for us. So I believe you've seen this file before, so I need not to explain much on this, and that is the migration file that has been created, and you're going to put this into an actual thing inside the database. So you're going to update it. So update database is going to make it work. Whoa, have you encountered this before? And what did you do? Okay, I know what you have to do here is go to the solution, click on this web API, and on this guy, invariant globalization. Set this to false. I'm yet to find out the reason why it does that. If you know, let me know. So let's go in there and undo it again. Alright, so we wait while it is. Okay, so you can see that it has finished performing the migration in here. Good, and we have the done. Now the next thing we're going to do here is we can close all these tabs in here, close all tabs. So we have a database, we have a data access, we have the interface and its repository created, and now it has been registered in the program.cs file. So what you need to do here is consume the application layer, and now in order to consume it, we have to create a controller in the API. So let's go to the API. Right click on this, and we're going for controller, and now with this we're going for new controller, and this is going to be an employee controller, right? So API, you want to have access to read and write actions, so maybe we can use this. And what you should do here is it's going to be employee controller. Yeah, so we have this one. Now in this we have employee, and now this get. So enumerable, and this is going to be, let's make this as public async, and this is going to be tags of, let's make it action results. And now with this going to be an employee, so here is going to be an employee, and that is get. Okay, so with this coming from the domain, so we have to use the domain model. And now what we are doing here is we can return. So I believe we know how to implement this controller, isn't it? Yes, since we are done with the interface and implementation, you know how to work with this. Okay, so first one, we are going to inject this in here. As you can see, we inject the interface from the application layer, then we create an instance, and we can have it in here as initialized. The next thing we're doing here is the get method, and here we get the method, so we call this employee, there's the repo. So this is going to be from the application layer, and we get async, which is going to have access to each implementation in the infrastructure, and now get it from the database. Aside from that, we have this get by ID, and we're also doing same in here, as you can see. Now the next thing to do here is this is add, so that's the post from this. This is a payload, and we're going to also get add async from the same API, not the API, the same interface. And let's see the last one, you have an update, we're doing the same, and that's a delete. Okay, so these are the implementation of this endpoint against the interface that we have created. Okay, so now this is working. Is it working now? It's not yet tested, so how come it's working? Now we've completed this. Let's put this on and now check if it is working as expected. So it is ready. We're going to try it out and check it out. So let's go to the post. We're going to post, let's say there's an employee. We're going to add one. So the name is Netcode-Hub. Then we say the address. It's in Ghana. Now let's execute this and see. So execute this. Yeah, so we have the feedback as added from the DTO. Let's see from get API or get employees. Let's see, you're gonna have access to that employee. Yes, we have a Netcode-Hub Ghana, right? Now let's see, let's go in for the update. So update, and we know the ID is 1. And here, you know, this is Netcode-Hub. So let's say Netcode-Hub. We're going to add channel to it. And now with the address, we're going to say this is Ghana, Accra, Ghana. And we can talk about West Africa. Okay, so let's execute this. So updated, right? Now let's go again. And now check this out. Get employee, execute this. Yes, and now we have it. When you go to get by ID, you pass in the ID of 1. Execute this. Yes, we have it. Now let's go in there and now delete this. So we pass in the ID of 1, 2, 1. Execute this. Delete it. Now let's go in there now. Check it up, execute, nothing found. So when you go to get all employees, you can see it is a list. So this is working. So that's a way to implement this layer, clean architecture in the web API service. Okay. Now let's see how to consume this in the client. That's a Blazor WebAssembly. So let's close this. Now if you check, when you check it from the solution, you can see that we're able to tackle one presentation layer. So we can also tackle the next one. But now to do the next one, we have to create our service, right? And now, where do you think this service will be? You know, the presentation layer, it is consuming which layer? The application layer. So it is appropriate to put all your services in the application layer. Okay. So let's see from the, you are done with the API, you can close it up. Then let's go to application layer. We have a contract in here. We have a DTOs. Let's also create one folder for this. And this folder, we're going to name this as, let's say, services, right? It could be client service. It could be any other, right? So these services that we are creating here is going to be general. So any presentation layer or any presentation we want to consume this can use this service and now get going. So within the service, we have to create an interface which encapsulates this one, the contract that we created. So it is going to be an interface, and we're going to say this is employee service. Okay, so now this employee service, this is going to be public, so we can clear this. And now with this, we can just go to the interface from the contract here. Then let's grab all this. You know, we don't want to type and be wasting time. So let's grab this, go to the employee service, and now paste it here. So it's exactly what we have in here, right? And it is using from the application layer and also the domain layer. All right, so we can just format this well. Let's close this. Then let's go to the same service. We're going to create an implementation for this. So we're going to be a class. Then you're going to say employee service. So this employee service, what do you think? Which interface do you think is going to consume? I know you've done it, right? It's good. I know you're saying that it's going to consume the interface that we just created. And that is which one? Oh, see why I'm doing it. And that is this one, the iEmployee service control period. And even the interface, we're going to create constructor for this. And now with this constructor, you see constructor here, we're going to inject the interface. So which interface are going to inject? We're going to, if you are working with a Blazor server, then we need not to expose an API, isn't it? But since we are not, and we want this to post a message on an API, which is the presentation layer, we have to use an HTTP client, isn't it? So here we're going to use an HTTP client to post a message to an API, okay? Whereby the API from the presentation layer is going to drive the interface from the application layer again, and an application layer also gonna get the data from the domain, using the domain to access data from the infrastructure. So you can see it is interconnected. You see that? Good. Now here, but if I type in HTTP client, we have this one, and we can create an instance control period, and we go to create an assigned field. Okay, so we can format this well. Now from the add async, we're going to create a very simple one to say var the data is equal to an await HTTP client dot. So this is post JSON async. Let's pass in the route in here. So that's an API / employee. That is all. Then we need to pass in the data, employee data. Now this you have to read the response. So var response is equal to await result dot content first. See what I've written. Oh, so it's data dot content dot read from JSON async, and this is what you want to read in the form of a model. So which model are you looking at? Service response. Then at the end of the day, we're going to return response. So you see this, we're going to do the same thing here. So we can just grab this, we go to the delete async, we're going to paste this in here. So instead of post, this is going to be delete async. Now API / employee, then you have to specify the ID in here, but you have to make it a string interpolation. So use the $, and that is it. This must be an async, as you know. Don't forget, it's very important. And then that is it. We can, this is what get async. With this get async, I'm not sure we can just put just one line. Okay, so let's say await HTTP client dot get from JSON async. We can use this, and we can have access to a list of employee from the domain. Then we can, let me put this on a new line so you can see it well. So list of employee in here, and in this we need to specify an API / employee. That's all that we need to do now. Okay, now the next one here is get by ID. So we can do the same thing. You can just grab this, the next line, and now in here, instead of list, it's just a single model. So we can have an ID. Then in here, we pass in the ID. You see this? Very simple one. Okay, so that's all that we need to do. This must be an async. I know you haven't forgotten, isn't it? And now this, yes, you have it done. The updates, we're going to do the same. So for update, we have to go in for this add method. Now let's come down here. Let's paste this. This must be an async. And now here, it is not post. It's going to be rather what put adjacent async. And that is all. Very simple. So we are done with our service. So let's go to the implementation. So we see from here, after creating this, that is all. Now we can change the presentation. You can add project, you can change again, but this doesn't change. All that you need to do here is consume this. So let's do as what you've said. Let's do that. Okay, so let's go in there and consume this. We go to the WebAssembly in here, and now with this tool we're going to consume the application layer. Okay, so in this we go to the program.cs file, and then in here we're going to write without the services dot, this is going to be our scope. Then we need I employee service, I employee service. Then we need what? Employee service. So you can see that here we are consuming only the application layer, not the rest of the layers. Now the rest of the layers are being implemented or consumed by this service that we have created. Remember that this service is also consuming the repo, the interface from the same application layer. So now since we are having different ports, we have to register it in here. So instead of using this base build the host environment.base address, we're going to remove this. And the next thing that we're going to do here is go to the controller. That is the API. If I say controller, that's an API. Go to the properties, line settings, and you can see we have an HTTPS. Let's grab this. We go, our app is running on the HTTPS, right? So grab that one, come to the program, and then in here you need to paste this. Okay, so this is what you need. You set the base address to the API. You can remove this since you are not using the model here. Okay, now we're done with this. The next thing that we're going to do here is, so since we are working here with having different ports, as soon as we register or we assign the base address to an external base address of an web API, it means when you post a message or request to web API, we have to enable resource sharing. That's the cost, right? So let's say you go to the program. So solution, then you go to, from the web API, you go to program.cs. This one or this one? Yeah, so this one. Now if it's under development, we want to app.useCourse. That is one the development, but maybe you can also extend it when it's in the, but this is in the development mode, right? So let's enable it here. Now what is an port here? We're going to run on HTTPS, so we don't want to use this. Now we're going to use 7254. Is that so? Go to solution, go to the web assembly project, properties, line settings, and this one is what? 7135. So program 7135. That's the address of the Blazor. And now when you go to, let's see, from the web API, properties, line settings, here it is what? Okay, 7096. So let's grab this. We go to WebAssembly, and now 7096. Yes. And now when you check the program, you can see from here that you allow any method, any header with headers, the header name, that content type. Okay, so we want to allow the following. Okay, so once we are done, the next thing that we need to do is what again? We can create a form and start using it in the Blazor WebAssembly project. Very simple one. Okay, so after creating your layers, consuming it in the Blazor or the presentation layer is very simple, isn't it? Good. Now let's go to solution. So from the solution, we, when check the dependencies from the project, we have the application layer in the registered, right? So let's go to component, then pages. In our home page, let's have a simple one in here. Okay, so we're going to have the add method to see. So code, and now this is going to be, let's say, employee, and now we say this employee, so equal to new. Now let's include this from the entities. We need to design a form, so let's say this is an edit form. Now this edit form, maybe we can use one of our packages that it just uploaded now. Floating dialog will be okay. Okay, so let's try that. So let's go to solution, then right click on dependencies from the WebAssembly, manage NuGet packages, then the browse tab, type in netcode, and I'm going to see all the packages which have been uploaded. What you want to do here is you want to use component validations, this component. Okay, so this package, you install this. Okay, so now it has been installed. Let's go back to the home page, and now let's use the namespace. So at using Netcode-Hub dot packages dot component dot validations. Okay, so you want to use on input event, so you want to verify this. And now in here, in our edit form, let's have our data annotations in here. Okay, now within that, the first thing we're going to do here is I think we should put this into div class, and this is going to be a row. And now in that, we're going to have another div class, and let's make it column LJ6. Let's move this edit form in that. So in here, we're going to have access to the first one is we need an ID. We're not going to provide ID to this, so we need name. So this is going to be test. So you can see this test is a component from the package. Now with this test, we can provide value and etc. to this component. Okay, so let's see what are some of the things that we can use from this. We have display name value, and we want to use floating test. So we have two things here. We have the test and we have floating test. Okay, we want to have a floating div, so floating test. And now in the floating test, we can provide some ID such as label. So because we have label, this label here is going to be let's say customer full name, and we can have a placeholder such as John Doe. Oh, not John Das, John Doe. Okay, we can make a copy of this, and now we're going to make this as floating test area. So if you have floating number, then floating test area. Label here, it is customer address. So example here is, so Accra, Ghana, maybe West Africa. That's an example. Okay, and that's what we need to do. Aside from that, we can bind this. So edit form, let's have a model. Now this model is going to be an employee, and if it is unvalid submit, you want to talk about save it. So save. Then what again can we do? We can have an bind value. Then bind value is equal to, what do you think? Employee, isn't it? Dot, we need the name. Then we're going to do same to this one. So this is going to be address. You see? Now aside from that, I learned you guys we should just put it in this form. Okay, I think this should be okay. So we can remove this. That is one. Control KD. Okay, we can also do same thing to this one. Label placeholder, and now we can close it here and I remove this tail. Control KD can also remove this one. Okay, now once you're done, we need to add this validation, maybe message. Now this message is gonna have this for pointing up to employee.name. Then we can just grab this one, and now down here we can also paste this. So instead of the name, there's going to be what? Good, address. I know you guys understand this, isn't it? Okay, then we must have our button, and now this button, we have our class, maybe btn primary, and maybe type here, since it is a form, we can have submit. Then here we can have save. Okay, maybe let's have MT5 MB5. This will be okay. Okay, so we can also have a CSS class attached to this. If you want to give now space between, you can also have a CSS class attached too. Okay, so maybe in here, let's see what we can do. You can also have CSS class. You can have this class in here, and now this class you can say MB3. Okay, so this is also going to work. Now once you have this, we need to run implementation for this. So save, then async task, save in here. Okay, we have the method. Now let's inject the application layer in here. So at inject, then employee service, then we say this employee. So this we have to include some namespace. Now we have it, so we can just copy this employee. Okay, so we can just make it an EMP. So EMP, that's fine, very simple one. Then here we can say that var result is equal to await EMP dot, you see, so dot add async. Let's pass in this employee. Now this is going to return a result. Okay, so the result that you're going to return, we can check if, or we can apply tuple here to check. So instead of doing this, we can say flag and message, because that's what the service response is coming out from. So we're going to say if flag, what I'm going to do, then if message, what I'm going to do. Okay, so before that, let's comment this. Let's also install one of the packages that have been published in get.org, and this package is going to be modal, or yes, so let's apply or notification. Okay, is it modal notification? Which one do you want us to use? Let's use the toast notification. Okay, so with this, let's see. Let's go to the same dependencies. Right click on this, manage new get packages. No, this is not the API. You don't want the API. Okay, careful. Okay, that's the WebAssembly. So from this, we're going to use toast, this one. Let's install this, apply this. Okay, let's go back again, and now where we have this, we're going to using Netcode-Hub. So using Netcode-Hub dot the same packages in here dot component dot, then we can now use this toast. Okay, so from the toast that we have in here, we have to include this toast. So we include this. Now here we have the duration. So we can say duration here is in milliseconds. So this duration here requires in what? In milliseconds. So we have to specify this in here. So maybe we can have int, then duration, then we can specify this duration like this. Aside from that, what again? We have an icon CSS class. We have, do you want it to persist? Persist. You want to set it to true. I've made a video on how to use this. So if you want to know how to use this very much, know everything, check that video out. Check this video description, and you're going to find it in there. Now we also have icon CSS. Yeah, so that's what we want to do. Now aside from that, we need to create a ref, and now this reference attribute is going to be is it toast model. Let's see, before we do toast model, we have to inject this toast service. So at inject, then we have toast service, then we say this is toast service. So now with this toast service, we can then come in here and now say toast service dot toast component, this one. Okay, now this toast service that we have injected, you know what happened? We have to register this toast service. So we go to the program.cs, then without services dot add, you can add scope or singleton any. So then you're gonna have toast service. Okay, so this is what we need to do, and that is also very simple steps. Register it, go to the home page, inject it, and now start using. Very simple. Okay, now the duration that we have in here, we go to say that when it is being saved, and if it is true, then the duration, we're not going to pass in duration. We want to maintain a default one because this has a default duration of 3000 milliseconds. Okay, so that if it is true, you want to just display the toast service. So we can say that this toast service dot, now this is what? True, so it's success. So show success toast. Now in that we can specify the title, and the title is going to be maybe say success. We can also specify a CSS icon to this, but for now we want to maintain all this. So this is a title, and now the message here is going to be this message. Okay, in case it is false, so you want to say if this is false, this is what you want to do, else do this. So if it is false, we want to set this. Maybe this could be, if that is false, this could be warning. So you can set here as alert. Now don't show success, so show maybe warning, or show error toast. Okay, but before that, this duration, we're going to say duration is equal to 5000 milliseconds, then show this, then show the message as well. After that, return. Okay, now that's what we have. Let's run this up and see. So let's set the WebAssembly also. So let's set this as startup. Let's run the web API. And now let's run the WebAssembly. So this is running. Now let's try the WebAssembly too. Yeah, you know, we're having this, right? It doesn't look great because we did not include the Bootstrap class. So from here, we have to include this Bootstrap class. So there's going to be a class. I'm going to say form control. So you need to include this. And now let's add this form control to this. Okay. Now here you can also set MB as 3. Now this should get the form refreshed. If it doesn't, then we have to reload this. Oh yeah, so this is what you want to see. So we have this. Let me increase it. Good. So this is okay. Now if I click on there, you can see it's a floating component. So we can have full name. Let's say this Netcode-Hub channel. And this is in Accra, Ghana. Click on save. And now let's wait. Yeah, so you can see it came back flash. It is off. Click on this again. Okay, so you can see we have some notification here, but you can see it didn't even wait. Do you see that? So let's edit it well. Then we're going to let's go to the page in here for the duration. We're going to set this to when this is through, this is going to delay 5,000. And default one is what? So you can set the default one to 4,000 milliseconds. Let's save this. Let's try this again. So I'm going to type in Frederick and Accra, Ghana. So click on save. Now let's see. Yeah, so success added, right? Good. So you can see it's been there for a while. Let's say when we have, what can we even do? We did not check if the file is already found. So let's see. Let's go to the repo. Let's go to our infrastructure layer implementation. And now before we do add in here, we want to check. So before we add, we're going to check. So var check equal to await. Okay, db contest dot employees dot, let's use first or default, whereby the name, let's say dot lower, okay, is equal to this employee dot name, employee dot name dot to lower. So here we are checking to see if we have the same data in there. So we're gonna check if check is not equal to null. If check is not equal to null, what you want to do, you want to return new service response, and it's going to be false. Okay, and now with this false, you're going to say that user already exists. Else we do this, control save. Now let's do this again. So we have to rerun this. Let's stop. I think let's all this. I want to stop them. Okay, then let's stop the API too. Now let's do it again. So we're going to build all together. Build solution. So build. We're going to run this WebAssembly. Whilst it is running, we check and now run the web API as well. So debug this, start without debugging. So you can see that our API is ready. Now the data that we have been added, we click on get employees, try this out, and we must see everything in here. Let's wait and see. Making a query from the database. Now let's check it out. Yes, you can see we have the same thing, everything 1 to 7. Let's go in and delete everything from here. Maybe you can also implement bulk delete, right? Here you need to delete it one after the another. That's very sad. So 2, we can delete this. We have 3. We can delete this. When you check the response, deleted. We have 4. We can delete this. Deleted. We have 5. Delete this. Deleted. We have 6. Deleted. Deleted. We have 7. Execute this. Deleted. Let's go for 8. Execute this. These are not found. Okay, so it means you are done. Now let's try this and see. So when I click on get employee, execute this, you can see there's nothing here. We're going to add one. So Netcode-Hub channel. Then there's going to be an Accra, as you know, Ghana, as you know, West Africa, as you know. Right, so click on save. That's what happened. So success added, right? Good. When you go to execute this, because now we have this here. Now let's click on it again. So if I click on this, what happens? Alert, user already exists. And now this is going to delay for about 5 seconds before it vanishes. Check it again, because the reason why it is doing it is when you check this, we set the duration here, we catch the duration from the home.razor, and now if it is false, you want to set the duration, you want to add 1 second to it. By default is 4 seconds, so if it is true, show 4 seconds, if it is false, show 5 seconds. Okay, so now we have this. Now let's go for the update and now delete. Just very simple one, so that's what we're doing. Now this is for update. If I click on this, if I want to update this, is it possible? It means we have to first get the list, right, of the day of the employees. So maybe we can get the list down here, or you can see this column 6. So the other 6, we're going to display the list in there. So we have a div class, and this is column LG6. Now this LG6, let's get a list from this. So we must have a method to get it when the page loads. So override. Then we can have on initialize async. We can have a list of this employee. So employee, then we're gonna say employees is equal to new. You see? So you want to have this employee must come from the domain. Not our employee. This must be an employee from the domain. Yes, so we have this. When the page initializes, we are saying that this employees is equal to await emp. Oh, see what I've done. So await emp 1 2 3 off to emp dot get async. So when the page runs or loads, you can have access to this. Then in here, we're going to loop through. So you're going to say that if employee dot is not null, that's going to perform this. Okay, then I'm going to loop through this. So for each var item in employees, you want to have a table. So let's have a table in here. So table class, and this table striped. Then we have our t head, and I have a tr, then t head. The first one, you're gonna have an id, th, you're gonna have name, then th again, we're gonna have what again? We have ID, we have name, we're gonna have address. Then maybe the last part, we're gonna have th, maybe action, so we can delete it, isn't it? Okay, now aside from the t head, we can have t body. Then with the t body, we're gonna have our tr. So first t, I'm gonna have our td. Okay, so inside this td, that's where this has to come in. So this is coming in from the t body. Then within the tr from the first row, we can paste it in here. Control KD. Okay, so the t body here, we're gonna have item.id. We can make a duplicate of this. Then we can talk about name. Talk about what? Addresses, isn't it? Good. The last one is the button. So td, and now with this td, we must use maybe delete, update and delete, right? So let's have button, or even not button, let's use button. So this is going to be class btn info and btn sm small, and in here we're going to say edit. We can just make a copy of this again. Then inside of the info, this is going to be danger, and now we're going to say delete. You can also use an icon to do that. So when this is clicked, so at on click, we can have access to edit clicked. We have to pass in this item. Okay, but this must be a method that we can point out to. It's a function, and we're also going to do the same. So we can just copy this from here, then from the delete. So instead of saying edit click, what I'm going to say, add it. Perfect. Delete clicked. Okay. So yeah, since we need only an ID, we can just pass in only ID or even the model. Well, we can pass in this item dot ID. Okay. So this is what we are doing. Now let's have definition for this method down here. So if this is void, if this is clicked, we are accepting an employee emp. And now with this, we're gonna call this var result is equal to await emp dot. So with this, okay, you're not using this. Let's make this an employee. So this is incoming emp. I think this will be okay. Incoming employee. So await emp dot, then we can have access to this is edit, right? So we're going to edit this, but before we edit this, it is unless the person clicks on save before we can get this. So there's an edit, so we're going to say that employee is equal to this incoming emp. That is all. Then we can just use this lambda to handle this. Okay, that is when edit is clicked, so no need for async. What of if delete is clicked? So delete clicked, and now this needs an ID. So with this ID, we're going to call this so result, or let's use the tuple flag and message. So it's equal to await emp dot delete. So emp dot delete async, we pass in the ID. Okay, so when you are done, instead of refreshing the page, we can extract this method. We can extract this method in here. and I'll say this is private async task get data, point type to this one like this. Then when the page loads, we call this await get data, and that is all. We can also use lambda expression to point this up to remove all these brackets. Okay, so get data. As soon as it calls it up, then await get the data again. You see? So as soon as get the data again, maybe you can implement it as change, or the page will just get itself refreshed. If it doesn't refresh, then we're going to implement it as change. That is for delete. Okay, now as for the update, now if I click on save, we first have to check. So if employee.id is greater than 0, it means we're going to update it. Then we can now call this. Okay, so in order to handle this one, I think we have to create so var response. Okay, so let's say var response is equal to new service response. So service response is defined application layer, and yes, it has to be found here. Okay, so with this we're gonna say response is equal to, okay, add async. That is, if id is greater than 0, then we're going to add this. Whoa, come back. Yes, else then we're going to say service response is equal to add async. So here we're going to make it as what? Dot update. So emp dot update async, then do this. Then the last here we can check if response dot flag in here. Okay, so if this is false, then we're gonna use response dot message. Very simple one. Okay, so response equal to new response. We're checking new service response, and now this service response, I think we have to, since this is a record class, we cannot instantiate like this. So maybe we can, what can we even do? So maybe we can pass in something that like false defaultly, and now it is message is null. Okay, so you can pass in like this. Let's save this. Okay, so we must have, and now response dot message here must work. Response dot message. Okay, so now let's wait. Let's run this and see. So I save this. Let's run this again and check it out. Alright, so you can see that we have the data in here. Let me minimize a little bit. Yes, so let's add one more, and this is going to be Frederick. Then still in Accra. Click on save. It has been added, but you don't see it here, do you? You don't, because we did not call this. Let's see. So after I save this, after this working perfectly, what do I need to do? If this is false, we do this. Else we have to call this method. Where is it? Get data. So we can get the current data from the database. So rebuild and save changes and do it again. So we have it in here. Now let's add one more. So your name. So my dear friend, your name, put your name here, and your location, put it there for me. I'm watching. So click on save, and you can see now we have it in here. If I click on delete, let's see what happens. So I click on this, edit this, you can see I have it in here. And if I click on Accra, maybe let me change to Kumasi, and that is in Ghana as well. Click on save, and now update it. But you see, it doesn't. Okay, yeah, it hasn't reflected. Have you seen? So you've seen that the edit is working, the add is working. Now let's talk about delete. If I click on delete, yeah, I can see it doesn't. Maybe let's refresh this and see if number 10 will still be there. Yeah, so it is no more. So as we delete, we should call this to get notified, right? Now let's also work on that. So for the delete, after deleting this, we call this data, and we have to include state has changed. Now let's see. So let's delete the last one. So delete, yeah, I can see it is off, right? It is off. Let's add it again. So Netcode-Hub channel, and this is in Ghana. So add this, and it hasn't added in here. Added. Okay, but if I click on delete, nothing happened. Let's see. So Netcode-Hub channel 1. Save this. You see, if I click on delete, nothing happened. It just vanishes. If you want to confirm this, what can you do? We can also implement a component in there that I have created. Let's see. And we want to confirm. You want to delete this before it gets deleted, isn't it? Let's install the modal component from Netcode-Hub.org. So let's go to solution. Then right click on dependencies. The same place. We have to close this. Let's do it again. Manage NuGet packages, and in here you can see we have modal. So we're going to use this modal. Click on install to get this installed. Okay, now this is done. We go back to the home page, and now with this home page, we're going to use this confirmation component. So let's go in there and add the namespace. So at using Netcode-Hub.component, not the packages, .component dot then modal. So once you're done, what you should do here is to include this modal dialog. So we can just put it down here. So we have a modal dialog. Let's see. So we have this bootstrap class, this, then custom style. Okay, so we're making a reference here, and now in order to do it, we have to create a reference down here. So confirmation, there's a component and confirmation, and we're going to create. You're going to provide an instruction for this. So custom instruction. I actually want to do this. You can decide to also change this. Okay. So that's the instruction. And for the handle, we can show maybe confirmation. I think so. So here so if I click on accept, okay, if I click on confirm, this event is going to get fired. Okay, so in order to do this, we have to create an event to handle this. Let's copy this. Then down here we can have void, so handle, and now this return nothing. So in here, if I click on confirm, that is when you want to start working with this. So that's delete. If I click on delete, what is this one? So if I click on delete, I want to call this. So here, the first thing to do here is, if I click on delete this, I must display the pop-up, isn't it? So we can say confirmation dot show. Okay, so we have the message specified in here. This is a message. I just want to do this. So if I click on this, this is going to show. Now after this getting shown, it's going to ask you a question. I just want to do this. If I click on yes, that is where this is going to get fired. This is going to get fired. So you're going to put this in here. Let's see, is this an await? This is not an await. Okay. So, and this must be an async, and this could be a task. You see? So, and with this, we have a flag is equal to this, an ID. So with this, you need to provide an ID for this. Very simple one. Okay. So we can have this property. And this is going to be delete ID. So if I click on this, I'm going to assign this. It's equal to this ID. I'm going to assign this. So when I'm done, after showing up and confirming true, then I'll pass in the ID here. You see? Then after state being changed, I'm going to clear this, or after this, I'm going to clear this ID. It's equal to 0. You see? So maybe this one I can do. Maybe for sake, I can check if ID is equal to 0. Then I want to return. So this is what we are doing. Very simple one. Okay. Now once you have this, we're going to have a confirmation pop up from this angle. After we click on confirmed, this is going to get fired. When we click on cancel, nothing happens. As soon as we click on confirm, this is going to get fired, and we're going to call this method to delete it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this is ready. Now let's see. If I click on delete, I must have the pop-up. But you see, I'm not having the pop-up in here. You see that? Alright, do you know the reason why? Because we've left one out. Let's go to the solution in here. We go to the WebAssembly. Go to www root folder. Is that so? Not that. Go to, let's check it and see. You can see our index.html. And here we need to include the script. So put it on top in here. So this is a script reference. So content / netcode-hub.packages.components.model, then model.js. So now save this. And now let's rebuild this and check it out. Alright, so it is ready. Now let's go and now check it out. So I click on delete. Oh yeah, I have it. I actually want to do this. Click on close. Nothing happens. You see what? As soon as I click on confirm, see? Yeah, it is off. So it has been deleted. Check it again. Now when I reload this, check it out. It's no more. I can keep adding the next one, Netcode-Hub. Then custom address, maybe Ghana as a whole. I click on, save this. That means added. Now I can add one more. I can also add this too, and you can see it keeps adding. Now I click on delete. I just want to do this, confirm it is off. Then I have to close this, do this again, confirm it is off, and I have to clear this, confirm, and it is off. That is it. Isn't that nice? Yeah. So that's a way to integrate this, looking at this clean architecture. So we've implemented it with two presentation layers. That is for the API and also the WebAssembly. Maybe in case you do want to add another presentation layer, a presentation, there's going to be a Mario Blazor or Blazor hybrid. Then you go to the same folder, that is a presentation folder, and now we add it in there. So on your project, you're going to have only 5 or 4 projects. Is it 4 or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4 projects. Okay, so you're going to have 4 projects, but within the presentation layer, you can also have multiple projects in here.
So now that you understand and know how to implement clean architecture in .NET 8, then let's get into how to implement MediatR and CQRS. Maybe be asking yourself, what is MediatR and what is CQRS? I believe this is not the first time we're hearing these two guys here, isn't it? They work hand in hand together. Or is it the first time we're hearing it? Then don't worry, I'm going to cover everything, the to and fro's, everything here, so that the next time that you meet these two guys, you know where they are coming from and where they are going. Okay, so first of all, MediatR is a package, it's a NuGet package that we can use in CQRS. Is this clear? You know that MediatR is now a package, it's a NuGet package that we're going to be using in the CQRS. Then the next question is, what is CQRS? CQRS, the C stands for command, the Q stands for query, the R stands for responsibility, the S stands for segregation. So in all, we can say CQRS stands for what? Command, query, responsibility, segregation. This is a software architectural pattern that separates the responsibilities of commands, such as saving data, from queries such as reading data. So here it's going to separate it from each command. Saving data is going to have its own command. Reading data is going to have its own command. Now the CQRS encourages a clear division between the two operations, allowing for optimization in handling commands and queries. Okay, now if you are not clear on this, don't worry. Let's talk about the CQRS principles. The first one is a command. So a command is an operation that we use to issue a command to a database. You know, every database has the CRUD operations, and I believe you know CRUD, isn't it? What is it? That's right. Create, read, update, and delete. Within the CRUD operation, there are some commands in it. Create is a command, update is a command, delete is a command, isn't it? Because you are issuing a command to the database to perform an operation. So these are being handled by the command. That's the first principle. Okay, so command is responsible for modifying data such as create, update, or delete. Now what of queries? Queries is responsible for retrieving data. So in the CRUD, we left one out, the R, and that's what stands for read. So to read, we need to create query to handle that. Now in creating the queries, we need the query itself and we need a handler to read data from the database. Maybe asking yourself, well, in the clean architecture, we were able to create our interface, an explicit interface, and now we had also an explicit implementation class. Is this not enough? Why do I need to still worry myself getting what courses, getting what CQRS is, trying to understand MediatR, and etc.? This is the reason why you need to learn this. Traditional CRUD, that is a create, read, update, and delete system, often optimized for writing or for write, which leads to complex data models. CQRS allows you to focus on the specific need of read and write separately. When you have an application or a large-scale application, you're working in a company. Now, when the company starts, it's a small unit, so you can just implement the interface and at the implementation once. Check this one. When you go to the infrastructure, you know, we have the implementation class, employee repo, everything in here. So all the CRUD is being found here, isn't it? Let's see. So that is a create. We have delete. We have read. We have update. Then we have, oh, we did not implement delete. I forgot that. Okay. So we have delete in here. So we have the CRUD here. Now, when you have a small application, small company that you're creating the system for, maybe this explicit implementation and an H interface is okay. But of the company start growing, whereby you, the programmer, they ask you to extend the system, extend it, Now here, before we delete data, we just get an ID, and what you're doing here is we're going to find a database, check if it is there. If it is there, then delete it. Simple step. 3 steps involve this. What if maybe later on, when the company wants you to, before you delete, send notification to the user, let the user confirm to delete, pass data to somewhere else, save the copy to somewhere before you delete it. You know, it's going to cover a whole bunch of lines, isn't it? Now, one file, that's the employee repo, is going to be too long. You're going to start from 1 up to infinity. It's going to have a long lines of code. And when that happens, debugging becomes difficult. Unless you have to navigate to line number, line 2, line 3000, line 4000 before you can have access to the specific implementation. That's the reason why MediatR and CQRS come in. So instead of you creating delete in here, instead of you creating get async, get by ID, putting all of this together, and also having them in the application layer for a specific interface like this, what we've done, like this employee, not this employee, like this contract, the employee, instead of having all this in one file, we're going to be splitting them. Okay, so add async is going to have its own class, add update is going to have its own implementation, add delete is going to have its own one, get async, get by ID, so it's going to have its own class that you can extend the code even when the company or the app becomes scalable and you want to scale it, you want to increase code, you want to increase the operation or the function, you can do that. I believe this is clear now. Okay, so now that you know the importance of using MediatR and CQRS, the next question is, how do you implement this? And I'm going to show you today. Let's have a look. So the next thing I'm going to do here is we have to install this MediatR package into the project. Okay, so this package was created by Jimmy, and let's install. So we're going to install this to the application layer and also the infrastructure layer. Okay, so 2 of these projects are going to have this package. So let's open application, right click on dependencies, go to manage NuGet packages, and in that you're going to search for MediatR. So mediate, okay, then we even have in here, you can see that is Jimmy. So let's install this. That's the current version as I speak. So install this here. Okay, this package is being installed. Now we're going to install the same package to the infrastructure. So let's do that. So you know the application layer, it exposes the method to the API, isn't it? Because at the end we are going to use the application layer. Now the infrastructure is going to be used, it's going to be called from the application layer. So it has to have the same package, so it knows what's going on, what's going to happen. So let's also insert the same package in here. Okay, now when we are done, we go to the API, because in there we're going to use the controller. So in order to use the controller, we have to also install one package in there. So go to presentation layer and the web API, right click on dependencies, manage NuGet packages, and let's search for browse tab. So the same package, MediatR, and I'm going to search for MediatR, the extension, the Microsoft, the dependency injection. You see this guy? That's what you want to install. So it is even saying that this package is duplicated, we need to use this instead. So yeah, we can go ahead and install this. So everything is here, it is inside with this, right? So there's no need for us to install this, but for the purpose of this, maybe should we, okay, let's install the same MediatR here. So we are not using this anymore, we're going to use this. Okay, do we have it installed? Output, yeah, so this is installed. Now let's check other packages and see. So dependencies, we go to packages, we have this. We go to the application, dependencies, packages, we have it. We go to implementation, other infrastructure, dependencies, now packages. Yeah, we also have it. So one package, we are using it across all these 3 projects. Okay, so maybe we can implement package manage system, so we can install it once and now use it. Maybe I'll cover a video on that. Okay, now once you're done with this, we can now close each peacefully. Now you can rebuild this solution to see if everything is working as expected. It must work because we just installed a package. That's the only thing that we did. Yes, and now it is fine. You see 5 succeeded, so everything is working as expected. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to create our handlers and also our queries. Okay, queries are for the read, and then we're going to have handlers are going to be used by the queries. Then when we need to create a command, that is to create, update or delete, we need to create a command. So first of all, let's go to the solution. Now, you know, from the application layer, let's say there's an out project. So if any application or if any API wants to consume, it needs to inject the application layer and start using it. Okay, so this is a head. So inside the head, we're going to create a folder in here to handle that. Okay, so I click on the application layer. Let's add a folder to this. And now here we're going to make it, this is going to be an employee, right? So here, this is going to be queries. So inside queries, maybe we can, for grouping purpose, we can also add another folder to this. And I said this is employees. Okay, or employee. Anyone that you think is suitable for this, employees. Okay, or employee query. Yeah, you can add anything that you want. Employee query. Okay. So let's first create a method. Now with this, we're going to get employee list. So here we're going to create a class for this, and we're going to name this class as get employee list. Okay, so get employee list. And now here I want us to add a query to this, so we know that it's in the query folder in the application layer. So get employee query. Now in here we have to make this as public, and this has to inherit from iRequest. So iRequest, and now this iRequest is coming from MediatR. So as you can see from here, let me clear all this so it becomes clear to you. Yes, so using this MediatR, and we have this iRequest. Now this iRequest takes in some parameters. You can see for it's a T response, that's going to be the out. So the request that we are going to get, which is going to be the return type, it's a T response, and the return type here, it is list of employee. Remember that this employee is coming from the entity, that is the model that we have created. Okay, we created together. Okay, yeah, so this is all that we need to do. Okay, so maybe we can make this as record, so we can just scrap this up, but for now, don't worry yourself, we want to maintain this. Okay, so maybe we can shorthand this like this to make it just a line of code. Yes, very simple for you. That's fine. So we have this set. Now this the actual work has to be done. So this looks like the interface. Okay, now the actual work needs to be done at where? I believe you know this. That's why you're saying the infrastructure, isn't it? Yes, of course. Let's quickly go to the infrastructure project, and now in here we're gonna create a folder for this. Right click on the infrastructure, click on add new folder, and now what's the name that we're going to give? Handlers, isn't it? So handlers. Now inside this handlers, right click on this, let's add another folder, and what is going to be the name? That's fine, employee handlers. Employee handler. Organization is very, very important, okay, to make it readable to everybody. Okay, so right click on this employee handler, let's add another class in here, and this is going to be get employee. Okay, so get employee list handler. employee list handler. So if you check, we are creating the query inside the application layer, which is going to be consumed by the API. Now the implementation is being created in the infrastructure, which actually going to handle the data access. Okay, you know the infrastructure data access layer because it contains the what do you call it? The migrations, the data, the context class, and etc. Okay, and there is the actual route to the database. So that's why we need to handle the handler in here. Okay, we're going to handle the handler. That's fine. Okay, so get employee list handler, and that is a class that we are creating. So this must be a public, so no. So let me clear all this, make it simple for you. I believe you're going to love this, right? So now we have here, we're going to inherit from I request. You see, so there's an I request. Now check it out. You can see we have I request handler. The first one is a query, and it takes in it's inherit from the I request interface, which needs an out value or out t value, and that is a list of employee. Now there is a handler, and now this handler, it also takes in some t value. Let's see, is it t value or it takes in what? Now let's see, it takes in a t request. Now this request, it is a request that we created earlier on from the query. So from the queries, and that is the get employee list query. Okay, so let's provide that. So this is get employee list query, this one, put it in here. And aside from that, it needs, you can pass in another one, t response. So you know we have a request, we have a response. The request here is what you're going to pass into database. Response is going to be the out from the database. So the response here, it is what? List of what? I know you have it already. That's fine. List of employee, not employee. So employee. You see that? So this is all we need to do. But we have an error here. Why? Why do we have this error? If I hover the mouse on this, control period, you can see we need to implement an interface for this. Without wasting much time, hit on the enter key, and our implementation has just been implemented. You see this? You see this is very simple, right? You need not to implement it yourself. You can do that only when you have all these. But shortcut is there, so why would you want to worry yourself, my brother, my sister? Do not do that. Okay. Now you have this in here, and you can see there is a return type as list of employee as we specified in here. So it's going to use this to generate it, and now we have a method in here. Okay, the method here, it is handle. Now in this handle, let's create CTOR constructor in here, and at the constructor we're going to inject this appdb context, isn't it? So here, because we are in the infrastructure, and we can have access to an appdb context class. So db context class in here. You create an instance, control period. You know what you're going to do? Just going to initialize it. So assign the value, and I initialize it peacefully, as you can see from here. Where is it? Okay. Now we have in here. The next thing we're going to do here is very simple. Very simple. We need to return this. Okay. We have a db context. So without wasting much time, let's go to the solution. We go to our implementation class employee repo, and now get all employee. What did we do? What's out? Get all employee. Wait, where is it? Okay. Do we have get all employee, or we did not add that? So you see from here, I found it, and I believe you've seen yours as well. Get async, and it returns a list of what? Employees. So we're going to copy this, very simple one. Let's copy this in here. Then we can go back to our handler, which is the actual guy implementing this, and within this we can return this one so return, you see, so we are returning await appdb context dot employees, but we have an issue here because this must be an async, and we are not doing that. So you know, shortcuts, what I love to do here is to move this and to move this. Whoa, do you have an error? Can you solve this? Just simple one. Use lambda Oh, and we have it. Control KD, formatted well, and oh, it is not doing it. Control KD. Okay, it's still there. Then we're gonna do it manually. Okay, so here we have this is not null. Let's see, control period. So forward the cancellation token, then we can also apply cancellation token, okay, to it. Okay, because this is a cancellation token and we must pass the instance of this to this. So this is a default one, nothing happens. But maybe if you want to execute, if you want to stop this operation, then we set this cancellation token to the state that we want to do it. So now that we have this get, let's go to the solution. We go to the presentation. Now let's see if we can consume this to the API. So let's go to the program.cs file. And now in here, we are going to register the MediatR service here. Okay, so build up the services. .add. Can we have MediatR? So in here, we have to specify configuration to this add MediatR service. Okay, so when you check it out, you can see that from here. Let me just clear this. Now we see this needs some MediatR service configuration, right? So in that, we are going to specify it. Just one line of code will make this work. Okay, so let's say this configuration, and we are mapping to this configuration dot. Then let's register from assembly, because you know that here we have the services in a different assembly, right? So let's register from assembly. Now from this assembly, we're going to specify type of. Then let's specify one, and that is get employee list handler. Okay, now this get employee list handler, where is it coming from? When you check from here, we don't want to use this. Let me clear this. Then control period, we want to use handlers, so we need to use an application layer for that. We are not finding application layer here. Let's check it out. Let me just check it again. Okay, yeah, so we have it already. Have you seen it? So using this infrastructure dot handlers dot employee handler. Okay, then aside from that, the next thing you want to do here is you want to register all 8 assembly. Okay, so this is what we need to do in here to register everything. Let me put this in the next line. Control KD. We have all set. Now let's save it. So once you're done, we can just remove this. We don't need this dependency injection. And let's see. So let's go to the controller. And now inside the controller, you know, when you come here, we are using this interface. Okay, so we are not more using the interface here. We have used this interface inside the handler. So we want to use the handler instead. Where can you find the handler? The handler can be found inside the IMapper interface. So let's inject it. Did I say IMapper? iMediatR. So iMediatR interface. So iMediatR interface. Let's see. So using, let me do it well. So iMediatR, that is this one. Then you create an instance in here, control D plus period, create an assigned field. So we have it set. Okay, so let's grab this one. Now instead of this, you're going to remove this from here. Then you're going to say that we can even maintain it. A line of code will make this work. So you're going to say await. Okay, then MediatR.send. Then what are we sending? Get employee list. So get employee list query. So this is coming from the application layer. Get employee list. Is that so? So when we check from here, this, you must create an instance of it. Control period. Do we have it now? That is it. So let's use that. Okay, then we can close this. So just one line of code that we need to use from here, and it's going to work. But you know what? This must be an okay.
isn't it? Yes. Now let's save this one and let's run the API and I'll check it out if this method is going to work. So now we are not using the interface of the repository. We want to get rid of all the repository with the interface implementation and implement the mediator. So let's see if this is working. Then we talk about how to implement the next one as well. Alright, so let's see. Employee. Now try this out. Execute. And now we have it. So this is working. You see that? So we have this set. So in case you want to have all the nitty-gritties, all the information, all the data, all the requirements, sexy for large code to just filter the list and do a whole lot of code. What you have to do here is go to the handler and now you can just do it in here. So this file, get employee list handler, is going to contain all the nitty-gritties of what? Get employee list handler, or that's the employee list. So you can extend it a lot in here. So the CRUD operation, instead of writing it in just one file, no, we are segregating it into smaller files. This get all list. Let's have a look on get employee by ID. Get employee by ID. So let's save this. We are done with this one. We go to the same place, so you know where we're supposed to go. We have a query. This get employee list. So right click on this and we're going to say add new class, and it's going to be get employee, you see, employee by ID. So get employee by ID. That's fine. Okay, so now that we have this, we can just make this as public as well. Then this is going to head from iRequest. As you know, request, what do you need to pass in here is a response out, and this only an employee. So because we want to return only single employee, let's remove this. And you know, we must pass in the parameter, so that's an ID. Okay, so we need employees ID. Okay, so you're going to pass in the ID in here. So the criteria that you want to pass in, you pass in the criteria in here. For now, we want to just get an ID, so you pass in there. I want us to format this because you know formation is very important. Okay, yes, so we have it set and that is ready. Now let's create our handler. So let's save this. Let's go to solution. Then in our infrastructure layer, employee, we're going to create our handler, and this is going to be a same as what class, and this is get employee by ID handler. Okay, get employee by ID handler, that's fine. Now with this, it's going to be public. Then here we're going to inherit from this a class iRequest interface. So iRequest handler interface, and now what you need to provide here is very simple. Get employee by ID. That is the first one that we need to provide. Get employee by ID handler, and also the return type here is what? Employee, because at the end we want to return an employee model, right? Good. As you know, what's the next thing? We need to implement interface. So we got it here working. Okay, so let's see. Now with this one, we have an error here, and well, let's see, it cannot be used as, oh okay, we are repeating this stuff again. No, this is supposed to be the query. I believe you've done the right thing. Yes, I didn't want to confuse you, sorry for that. Okay, so we need to use this from get employee by ID query. Let's see, do we have it here? Oh, we should have added a query here. ID query. Okay, so we have to copy this. We go to the class and then change this one in here. Let me stop this. So by query, yes, that is set. So when you go to the handler, we can just include or implement the query, the namespace in here, and I think this has to be stopped. But again,
Okay, so if so, then we have to regenerate the interface. I think so. Implement it. Yeah, you know, so that's how it's supposed to be done. Now let's remove all this because these are all chaff. We don't need them. Okay, so let's have to create a constructor. So pause the video and try your hands on it, and I believe you're going to get this right. So appdb contest. Then we say this is a contest, control period. Let's create an assigned field quickly. And after doing this, we are going to get only, yes, I can also do this. You know, I like lambda. So I'm going to say that await appdb contest dot employees dot find async. Then I'm going to pass in the ID. Okay, now the question is, where are we getting the ID from? Where are we having, or where from this ID? You know, we did not specify any ID here. We specified the ID from this as a request. So where are we getting this ID? We can get ID from this request. So let's grab this, and we're going to say that request dot, do we have anything? Let's actually check the state of this request. Is get employee by ID, isn't it? So this request that we have in here, can we specify an ID to this? Is it possible that it will be like this way? Let's have a look. So you can see that here we are not able to get it. We cannot pass in the ID here, and there's not even the ID that we need to pass. What we can do here is we have to get the ID from this request. But you know, when I clear this and I type in dot, we are not getting the ID here. Why? When you go to this employee handler, no, that's a query. You know, we provided this, and this is not a public variable, isn't it? Good. So we need to clear this up from here. We can make this happen only when we state this as a record class. But since we're not making this as a record, we can have to remove this from here. Then inside this parenthesis, we need to specify, so we need an ID for this. Okay, so maybe you can just write in an employee ID, or just an ID will be okay. Now let's save this, go to the handler, and now from here, request dot, you're gonna have this ID. You see that? Good. Then maybe we can check if it is null. Well, it's not working, maybe unless we check it up there, but don't worry, it is going to be found. So we do this very one line of code, and then we are done. In case you have any other details, command that you want to execute, we can just pass them here. Since we have access to the appdb contest, we have access to the employee list, we can now make a look or detailed search on what we want. Okay, so now once you're done with this, we go to the program, not the program, the controller, and now by ID. So instead of this is what we're going to do. We're going to remove this up, and here can we also specify something like this? So I'm going to say okay, right? Then we're going to pass in await MediatR.send. Okay, now with this send, we specify new get employee by ID query. And now with this, we need to specify an ID is equal to this ID. Very simple one, isn't it? So let me put this to a line. You see that? Good. I want to remove all this to make this simple. Yes, because you are moving them to a line. Okay, so we have this get by ID to implemented. Let's run this and check it also. Let's check this one out. Yeah, now this is ready, so we're going to check this out. Let's try this, passing 16 as you know, see over here. Now let's click on execute and then check it out. So we have 16 Netcode-Hub channel. You can pass in 17 to and see whether we have it or not. So execute, we have 17 over here. Yeah, so this is also working. Now we've done with the read. So get the list, get maybe single one, okay? But you can also implement range. Maybe you can just have less than this, greater than this, between this. It's up to you. You know how to do it, so we do that. That's fine. Let's go to the command now. Create update and delete. Let's have a look on how to do that. So first of all, we're going to talk about how to create using this MediatR to perform that operation. Quickly, let's see in that. So here we go to the interface. Now, if I say the interface, I'm talking about referring to the application layer, because that's where we are injecting them into our presentation layers. That's the API, and I'm using it. Okay, so I don't want it to confuse you. Sorry for that. You go into our presentation layer. So in here, once you have our queries from the application layer, we also gonna have our commands, right? So we're going to do this, right click, then add new folder, and oh, I have to close this. I didn't see it early, so let me just close that. And we're going to name this as commands. So you can see we have queries and commands. So these two guys here come together to form the CQRS command query responsibilities segregation. So we are done with our queries, so now we're going to our commands, and that is for the create, update, and delete. We want to first tackle the create, isn't it? So let's add a class in here, and there's going to be create employee. So create employee command. So if you want to create maybe a range, you can just add create range employees, create list employees. Well, it depends on you, but for now you want to add model, just a model. Okay, so you're going to say create employee command. Okay, it's a class, and I believe you know that. So in here we're going to make this as public, and there's a create employee command. So with the command, we need to specify, let's say we have a property in here, and there's an employee. Okay, so we have an employee, and we're going to say the same employee. Okay, so we have this property, and this can be null. Okay, now once you are done with this has inherit from I request, as you know. So with this I request, the first thing that we'll talk about here is an out. So out response, and now when we create, you want to return service response. Remember, we created that in the application layer. So we have this response created. So this is going to be the variable that you're going to provide access to, and this is going to be the return type. Okay, so this is going to be used for the process, and after the process, this is going to be the out key. All right, so let's remove necessary ones. Let's save this. Now we go to our handler. So we have the command in here, and at this time it is not query. Okay, query is for read. Now we go to the handler in here, and from the handler we have get employees, employee handler, and it's going to be what? Create employee handler. So let's add a new class, create employee handler. Now with this, it has to be public. That's fine. Let's clear all this. And aside from that, this has to inherit from I what? Request handler, isn't it? So request handler. And now in the take note, we have T request. Okay, so with this, we're going to provide the payload, so in keyword, and now the payload here is that's a T request, and this request here is a command that we created. So create employee handler, no, not the handler. So create employee command. We want this. Okay, aside from that, we need a response. The response here, it is service response, not this one. So this is a response control period. We need to implement interface in this. Okay, so here what are we going to add? The drill. So CTR, we pass in an AppDB context class. Create an assigned field, clear this space. Then in here, we're not going to do anything. We're going to go to the solution, we go to our repo, employee repo, and now in here we are done. So this add, so we're going to call this. Okay, then let's go to the create employee handler. We're going to paste this here. So you first check, and this must be an async. Okay, now with this we are having this employee.name, right? Where is this coming from? This is coming from this request. So request dot, we have this employee dot name. Then if it is not, or if it is null, then we can add request dot employee. We save changes. So instead of this, await appdb contest. So appdb contest dot save changes async. Then we are going to return this. Okay, so let's pass the cancellation token. Okay, then return the service response, because you know this is a return type. So if you want to perform any operation specifically to this create employee, do it here. Okay, you can just extend a class and do a whole lot of your magic in here. For now, we want to maintain this. Okay, so we save this. We are done. We can remove this in here. That's fine. Let's register this. So let's go to the controller, and now where we have the add, where is it? This is update, this is add. Okay, so you have it employee DTO, and now we're going to pass it in here, right? So this is what you're going to do. Await mediator, then we're going to click on send. This is also going to be a line of code. I believe you know that. So dot send. Okay, so this is send. Now send, we have new create employee command, and now this employee command needs what? Employee. So this employee is equal to this employee DTO. Okay, what else are we doing? We just terminate it and return result. So like this, you to go, remove this from here. Then as you know, I'm going to say okay and clear, then terminate it. Let's see. So we're going to run this, save this, and now let's run the API. So let's check it out. Try this out. We have this default one. Let's see if we have it. So user already exists. You're going to change this one to your name. Your name here. Then you're going to say your country here. Okay, execute this. Okay, so added. Now let's go and now see, let's get all 21, right? So let's also check. And we see we are using the mediator, isn't it? So get, we pass in 21. Execute. Yeah, we have it. Left with 2. Update and delete. Let's quickly get that one done. So let's close this. Okay. Then we go to the solution. We're going to create the same. So for command, we're going to, let me stop this time around. I won't forget. Okay, so command, add a new class from here. And this is what? Update employee command. I know from where you've gotten to, you can do this yourself, isn't it? Yes. So this is public. Remove all this. And now with this, since it's an update, we need to provide same. So employee, make it nullable. Then I'm going to say that there's also an employee. So from this, inherit from I request. And now this I request needs T response, and that is service response. So when you compare create employee command, it's the same thing, isn't it? Good. Okay. Or what can we even do here is, we have this employee handler. Okay. So we can actually use the same. We can create a generic one for this, but we are not into that. Let's create each for each. Each for each. Okay, here. No confusion. Each for each. Then we go our way. Okay, so we have this. After creating this, the next one is to create what? The handler. So let's quickly do that. So update employee handler. This is public. Clear all this. And now here, I request handler. We specify this update employee command. Aside from that, what's the T response? Service response, control period, implement, interface, and go your way. So for updates, we're not going to type anything. We have it there already, isn't it? We go to our employee. Where is it? Have you found yours? Yeah, mine is here. So for update, there's an update. I'll just have to grab this one. Then I'll go to update employee handler. But before that, what we set here to async first. Let me inject my DB context too. I don't want to have any issue. So add DB context, control period, assign field. Then peacefully, I have it here. Yeah, it is done. You see? I wait, and I need to copy this appdb context.save changes async, and now instead of this is going to be request.employee, as you know. Yes, that's it. So with this, when we go to where controller, the update, you can also do same. So since you know this, I'm going to put this on a line like this, 3 lines. Okay, so we have this. Can just minimize this. Okay, now that's an update. So for update, it's still going to be the same. So I don't want to waste time here. Let me grab this from here. Okay, you know this already, and I'm going to paste it here. So I'll paste it in here. And for this, let me put this on the next line, so you can see everything yourself. Yes. Now what are we doing? MediatR.send create employee. Is it create? No. You're shaking your head. It is what? Update, isn't it? Employee go to this employee. Very simple one. You see? It's a matter of just make a copy of this and I change this to update. Very simple. Alright, let's go to the employee. Delete. Or let's test this first. Which one? Let's test. Let's first get our employee and see the one that we want to modify. So we have this. We want to modify 20. You want to set string updated, right? So name updated, string name updated, address name updated. Okay, so that's ID of 20. Now let's see. So we're going to the update. Where is it? The update. Let's pass in. Let's add 2. We have it. So string. We say name updated. Then we're going to say string address updated. Click on. Execute this. Now let's see. Oh, that's fine. Updated. Get by ID. Pass in 20. Execute this. Now we have it. Have you seen? when you go to list and try to get it again, yes. Last one. Can you do it? I want to end here. Do that. You're saying please finish it. Yes, I'm going to finish it for you. Okay, so let's see how to do that as well. Then we are done. So the delete, we need to specify only the ID. So it's a matter of copying and pasting the get employee by ID. By this time, we're going to be delete employee by ID. So we go to our command, then add a class in here. Then we say delete employee by ID. Oh, we should have added a command to this because this is command. Let's close that. Delete employee by ID command is very important. Yes, rename this. Okay. Now, as you have this, make this as public. We can create our employee then we're going to say this is an employee. Make this as nullable. This inheriting from I request. Then we have our service response. Okay, now in here we are done, so we can go to the handler and create our handler in there. So a class delete employee by ID handler. Oh, okay, we are saying delete employee by ID handler, but when you go to the command, we are specifying this. So now it should be integer, and this should be employee ID, isn't it? Yes. Then we go to the handler, make this as public. We can now clear everything. This is going to hit from I request handler. It needs a t value of what? Delete employee by ID command with t out response is what? Service response. Control period, implement our interface. We go to the repo. Now the delete, we're going to copy this, go to the handler, replace this, make this as an async, app.db context, copy this, dot save changes, then request dot ID, create constructor in here, implement your app.db context, control period, that is it. Go to the controller. Now in here, want to grab same. I want to grab this one. Paste this here. Am I doing it strongly? This. Then clear this. Now paste this. Oh, okay. Let's see. So public task delete async, and as an await, where is our lambda? Yes. So we have sent, and this one is delete employee by ID command. We passing the ID in here. Now let's see. Let's find this out. Now the ID that we deleted, where is it?
No, that we created 20 ID 20 that we updated. We are going to delete that. But first of all, we're going to make a query and check if it is there. If it does exist, then we're going to delete it. So try this out. Get all. Do we actually have that ID in existence? Yes, we do. 20. Okay, you can see it's over here. Now we're going to delete that. So let's pass in ID 20. Execute this. Let's wait for the response. Yeah, deleted. That's fine. Now when we try to get it again, let's see, execute. Oh, we do not have it. It's missing. So this is working. We are done. Now what we're going to do here is we do not need this contract anymore. You see this? We do not need this contract. You see? Now we have this employee interface and this other we have. When you go to the service, we also have its interface in here. As for that, we do need, because this is for the client. This is for the API, okay, for database. So we can just delete this. Let's stop this. Let's see if we delete and did not give us any error. It tells you that, hey, we are done. This is working. Okay. Now let's go to the infrastructure. And our independent, we're going to also remove this implementation. Oh, wow. Let's clean this solution. So we need to remove the contract from here. Okay. Are we having any contracts from this employee service? We don't need this. So why are we having this on top? Okay. Now let's go to solution. That's a web API. Program.cs. We need to remove all this and remove this. Oh, okay. Now let's build this. Build solution. Alright, so this is succeeded. It is built. Okay, so you're going to run this and see if you're able to process or perform all the functions without having any issue. It tells you that yes, we are now having a virtual repository. So you're not having an explicit one. Let's see. Get all employees. Let's wait and see. Oh, okay, this is working. Now post or add this one. Let's add the string employee. Oh, okay, added. And that's going to be 21 or 22. So this, the last one is 21, so it's going to be 22. We can update it 22. And I will say only this updated now. Execute this. Yeah, updated. And when you go for by ID 22, yes, updated. Now we can also delete it. 22. Yeah, deleted. So we are not having an explicit repository, but we do have it. Now let's see if the client can also consume this. That's a WebAssembly, okay, as a second representation application in that layer. Okay. Now let's check this out. So I'm going to stop this. And now we're going to set this to the client WebAssembly. Let's run this. Now let's go to solution, right click on the server. Then you're going to debug the server here. So we have the following data in here. Now we're going to remove all. So delete it. Yeah, so it is gone. Delete this again, confirm this, it is gone. Delete this, confirm, confirm. Okay, when we rerun this, let's say if the delete is actual delete or it is just something that it is not working. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, it is gone. Now we're going to add next one. So Netcode-Hub channel address is in Ghana, as you know. Now let's click on save. Oh yeah, it is saved, right? Let's check our API and see if it is there. Run this. We have it in here. You see it's working. Now let's check the next one. We're going to edit this. Now the editing that we have, channel 1, save this, update it. Let's have a look. Execute this. Channel 1 updated. Okay, now we can delete it, right? So delete, confirm, close this. Let's go in there and check it. You must have now. Oh yeah, so that is it. You've seen how to implement clean architecture in the previous video, and also we've seen how to include or integrate MediatR and CQRS, command, query, responsibility, segregation. All the CRUD operations, separate them, create a file for each so that you can extend the class when your app becomes scalable. When the company that you've created the app for is enlarging and need to add more commands, you have vast space to work on it than putting all of them in a single faster implementation or as a repo. You can do that for a small company, but when it is big and growing bigger, oh my friend, then you need to think about this. Okay, so that is it for the video. I hope you guys love it, and I do love to as well. Thank you so much. If you know you have not subscribed, do that now. All right, so I'm going to catch you again. Till then, take care. Before that, the source code of this would be available. If you want to grab the source code, check the video description. It's very important.